She got me feeling some feelings I ain't felt in a while. She got me thinking about marriage and her having my child. I buy her favorite wine to give her all of my time. I thank the Lord for bringing her in my life. Yeah. We've been friends now for quite some time, and Lord knows more than friends is what I want in my mind. I told her how I feel, now our friendship's been jeopardized. She's blocking all my love, I give her space and some time. I fell in love with my friend, I don't apologize, no. Even though our friendship has been jeopardized, I give her space and give her time. Every day that passes by, it's hard to get her out my mind. She's truly one of a kind. Love and friendship's hard to find. I can find another love, but don't want to put in the time. I don't mean to moan and whine, I'm just really feeling hurt. I've been in love before, but this time was like the first. I've been hurt before, but this time was like the worst. I'm dealing with this pain as I write it in this verse. Yeah, come on. Love is bliss and love is blind. Love is often sought after, love is hard to find. And even though I'm seeking love, I gotta keep in mind, I gotta love myself first. I need some space and time. I try to go about my day and keep her out my mind. Getting money, focused on my hustle and my grind. Sometimes after 1 a.m. she crosses through my mind. I think about our good times just to laugh, so not to cry. I still love her. If she needs me, she can hit my line. If she's hungry, needs some gas, or wants some barefoot wine. Love and friendship is something that is hard to find. I fell in love with my best friend, I don't apologize, no. I fell in love with my friend, I don't apologize, no. I hope and pray our friendship hasn't been jeopardized, yeah. Thug nasty.
Welcome to the Bay Area, that yay area. We break barriers cause we way scarier. With our great characters, we way spectacular. There once was a little Asian girl who came from the Bay. Now she's a great SF woman who grew up from the 408. So you can be someone in New York, be someone else in LA. But when you come to SF, be yourself is pretty damn great. Okay, so she didn't care about her math or about her grades or being a lawyer or a doctor. She just really wanted to create. Turned 18 and got on her way. Went to an art college, being all gay. Experiment living in her lane. Now she was 415 every single day. Yay, 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 yay. Welcome to the Bay. This is the air to be in a nutshell. What else is there to say? Speak the realest shit ever. Then well, do you truly believe in her desire? This album, this bombshell. This is her fire. Listen to her excel. This is hip hop 106.1. This is KMEL. Yo, this girl from the Bay AA hitting your airwaves. You know, you must like just give her your most undivided attention. Yes, cause she's all done asking for permission. She's all ready to bust. You don't hear it often, but when you do, Tifa is a name you can trust. Welcome to the Bay Area, that yay area. We break barriers cause we way scarier. With our great characters, we way spectacular.
Yeah, Oakland, Vallejo, San Francisco, Richmond, San Jose, stand up, yay area. We yay spectacular, baby. Yee.
Look, she ain't got no empty bars. She's an MC spitting hard with a whole lot of heart. This is her city and it's inspired arts. From 16th and Mission, the very start, to Dolores Park, where she go march, then to Embarcadero to Oakland. She's going through that blue line bar. Wait, okay, I'm gonna go ballistic from a capitalistic systemic vision like ham. Hard as a motherfucker, cause wait, this is conscious rap like damn. If you know me, dismantle the police, get with the program. This is New Year's Eve, 09. Please stop lying. Peace to Oscar Grant. Now, come back to the boom boom room where we will resume, bringing all that's conscious to your conscience, from womb to tomb, spitting knowledge through the classrooms, all the way into your homeroom, back to school, out of the Zoom, to real life where we gotta bloom. This is the Bay, the yay, every single day, we live it up, Craig, going all the way, brave, all around the world, we the best, yay, touche. There's nothing left to say, shit's fire, so pour it up onto the flambe. Queen Tifa is here to help you, trust her, cause she is not here to play. Welcome to the Bay Area, that yay area. We break barriers, cause we way scarier. With our great characters, we way spectacular, way spectacular, like way, I'm talking way, spectacular,
Yeah, we yay spectacular, baby.
Ella.
Bay Area stand up, black, brown unity. Christ one on the beats, H. Scott, T for motherfucking love, yo.
Hey brother, I think I need your help. I've been going through some things. I need you to talk to me just a little bit. Tell me something. Inspire my soul. Help me out. Would you please? Could you help me?
Look at all we've been through. Every other night, another brother on the news. Another nigga shot for wearing the wrong shoes. And we killed each other. Black Lives Matter. I'm confused. Police keep choking, niggas from East Oakland to Hoboken. These streets ain't no joke, fam. And how many soldiers did we lose from Corona? Getting clapped from homie holding a toaster. Barely can afford to keep my lights on, but I still kick the mic on and write a hype song. It's called inspiration. It's called ducking hating and not getting cremated. Yo, my nigga, play it. Turn it up. Play it loud and say it loud. I'm inspired. No negativity allowed while age is around.
All right, thank you, man. I can smile now. I had a frown on my face before, but you know what? You've inspired me. Wow, thank you.
Keep your head up like Pac said, and enjoy your time like Flavor Flav and his clock, kid. Cause so many drop dead from sickness to hot lead. Peep what your homie H. Scott said, we fortunate. In the Bay every day be killing season. So I gotta give thanks, we still breathing and succeeding. Still achieving my goals even though the road's bumpy black. I'm not gonna let that hold me back, nope. We God bless, gonna win regardless. Agents flow be gorgeous. One word piece like Ron Artest. Why you kick another song about slinging crack vials? I'm trying to inspire that little black child. And the little white one and the brown one. Yo, H. Scott, keep the sound, son.
Inspiration. I need you. I want you to have a little inspiration. Don't let nothing way down. I need you to have a little hope and joy in your eyes. No sad face. Whoa. No sad face. I need you to wake up in the morning with a smile on your face, no frowning. Don't be worrying about what happened in the past. You can get on gladly. There is nobody in this world that can stop you. Nope, if you just let your mind free. I need you to let your mind free. I need you. Oh, I don't need no other for something when I stop or to show me I don't want. Yeah, no, yeah.
There's another boogie on here.
This is who I am. From my heart, this is who I be. This is where I started. And I'll be making my way, making my way.
Yeah, I've been in this thing for a minute. With my head up in the clouds, hoping that I finish. I be rapping, I be singing to the day I die. Ambitions of a true survivor, scenario. It's my reply to the whole world, know my name. Lights, camera, action to the top, all the way. Yeah, there I go with a smile wrapped around my face. Knowing that I made it all the way through God's grace. I found my place with harmonies, keys, and melodies. It's all in my brain. The hustler psychology possibly made me this way. Since 7 years old, I've been rocking the stage. And now I'm all grown up and I be doing the same.
Yo,
This is from my heart. This is who I be. This is where I started. And I've been making my way, making my way. It's all about the fame. I've been making my way. Who I am from my heart. This is who I be. This is where I started. And I've been making my way, making my way. It's all about the fame. I've been making my way.
Ain't no living in this world for free. We all lie for them dollar bills. I'm stacking it in God we trust. I got my eyes on the prize, no falling off. Every day is a struggle, but I'm devoted to the cause, so I'm going out. Hustling in these streets on the paper chase. Doing features and shows. Get my exposure, that's the reason they wanna hate. But tell me what you know about me. This shit ain't come overnight. Hell, I've been grinding since the age 13. Learn my game in the streets from the OGs. They taught me get money and fuck these haters. Let them flow like a wind breeze. D1 don't depend on no man. If it ain't about money, it ain't about me. That's the motto with master plan. I do this for my kids and my family, cause I'm all they got, they need me. So why the fuck would I stop? I'm destined for success, and it ain't come easy. Had to keep my head up, cause the rap game needs.
This is who I am. This is from my heart. This is who I be. This is where I started. And I've been making my way, making my way. It's all about the fame. I've been making my way. Who I am from my heart. This is who I be. This is where I started. And I've been making my way, making my way. It's all about the fame. I've been making my way.
Perfect.
Yeah, 27 ink.
Fatty.
Yeah. If I shine, then my people too. Once you get on, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm on my little D, Big Meech. If it ain't about biz, don't speak. If I shine, then my people too. Once you get on, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm on my little D, Big Meech. If it ain't about biz, don't speak. Yeah. Always on the road, I'm in the league. No time for the blasé. I got mouths to feed. Read between the lines, you'll find this guy serious. Now you tapped in, and I got you a little curious. Here it is, live and direct, no fugazi. Louis V around my neck, did the footwork to earn that respect. First you get the money, shit, y'all know the rest. Success is in the eye of the beholder. Nobody want to kick in, put the whole thing on my shoulder. Road, I'm a rider. Started at the bottom, now we on fire. If I shine, then my people too. Once you get on, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm on my little D, Big Meech. If it ain't about biz, don't speak. If I shine, then my people too. Once you get on, that's what you're supposed to do. I'm on my little D, Big Meech. If it ain't about biz, don't speak. Yeah.
Big dog status like Lil D. Feed the whole fam like Big Meech. Put in leg work, now we run the streets. If it ain't about business, nigga, don't speak. Put the play in motion, rolling like a locomotive. Made a living, turning nickels into dimes on the quota. Ball shit, ocean. Move like Hova in the O with the block. Cause these bitches love social. Put the right pieces in position. Make subtract to zero if you make a good addition. Never take the bait, put the fans still fishing. Back in the magician to these niggas, they be tricking. Take the pass, let's travel till they block it off. And never did it this big, nigga, knock it off. Ran through the whole team, told him walk it off. Honcho, call shots, what you talking about? Cold little nigga, you got the right one, I'm the wrong little nigga. I got a big stack, my reach long, little nigga. Try me, you won't make it home, little nigga. When I shine, they shine, we shine together. Lay the foundation so we shine forever. Press on the button, it's heat and it's leather. Inside of the foreign foot pushing the pedal. I'm paving the way to get out of the ghetto. Michael Archangel, I fight with the devil. Digging this grave, heaven gave me the shovel. You think that I'm weak, had to turn up a level. And I'll never be beat, I'm a king in these streets. I relax like a Mac, having sex on the beach. Never surrender, never retreat. People to feed and they all gotta eat free to God.
Yeah. Huh? It's a deep shit, nigga. Yeah. Last time I checked Sativa was the motherfucker. Damn. Every bitch I serve say a nigga bring the thunder. Boom. Fuck your mama, fuck your daddy, I'm a cold nigga. Fuck 'em, went from a fluffy to a fucking swole nigga. Hey, all about the bags, where the cash at? Dwelling in my past, I was the one they used to laugh at. Told the bitch I'm ballin' now, okay. Where that ass at? For years I've been up buzzing on this mic. Fuck your ass, man. Fuck it. Told you niggas I was in it for the long haul. Never been a hater, but hating got me saying fuck y'all. Gang of motherfuckers, they been waiting on my downfall. The crown I wear, they tilting, but I would not let that bitch fall. I be guessing rear posse ski skirting on them. Tear the booty down, put a hurting on them. Yeah, say a prayer for my haters, God be working on me. Do it, plugged on this music shit, serve them what they want. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about him. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, yeah. I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about him. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about him. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, yeah. I'm the nigga, ask about him. Yeah, real nigga fly shit, iceberg dripping. Thinking I'ma stop, motherfucker, you tripping. Run up on me, nigga, get your blues like you're crippin'. 12 pots with dope in them on the stove in the kitchen. Mama say your bombs itching, and that mean the money coming. I've been on my own forever, nigga, I ain't asked for nothing. I've been blowing through forever, nigga, only Cali puffin'. I've been pushing to the metal, nigga, trying to get to something. Getting right past the bullshit, straight to the cheddar. Got a bitch they call her Netta, she a super freaking leather. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, swear it ain't nobody better. I was brought up by the realest, but I trust a nigga never. I was born to fuck the winner since was in my mama womb. Wanna test me, nigga, fuck it, we can go there if you choose. If we go there, facts my nigga, I'ma do the fucking fool. I'm the motherfucking nigga, I don't do the shit to lose. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about him. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, yeah. I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about him. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about him. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, ask about me. I'm the nigga, I'm the nigga, yeah. I'm the nigga, ask about him, yeah. Like a thick bitch, sweeter than candy. I keep the heater hot, that motherfucker come in handy. I run my own shit, yeah. Nigga, I'm the owner. Bananas with the clips, gorillas on the corner. Ain't nothing fake about me, nigga, this is my persona. You don't really want the drama, nigga, I put that on my mama. I'm a 707, nigga, reppin' California. And the only time I sober when I'm blowing marijuana, nigga. They treat me like a villain, nigga, really, I'm just chillin'. A penny for your thought, shit, my mind is worth $1 million. Catch a nigga slippin', bet you fade a nigga ceiling. So I say, fuck the world, then continue with my mission. Sippin' on this Henny shit, it got me kinda tipsy. I'm all up in my feelings, RIP my nigga Nipsey. Only real when I'm talking, I don't need to fucking lie. Why I try to be the hardest? I don't need to fucking try, nigga. Wait a minute, I'm just trying to clean my plate. Too much heat for these niggas, got them pushing back their dates. Wait a minute, we been sipping on this potent. Catch us at the light, real ones in the bucket, hella choking. Wait a minute, nigga, when shit was going down, I be the realest motherfucker, never had to dust the crown, nigga. Wait a minute, on my mama, nigga, I ain't never lied. MOS until my death, nigga, I'm hustler certified, nigga. I walk like a hustler, I talk like a hustler. This game is like a blunt, I'm here to smoke the motherfucker. Mediocre, never winning in my bloodline. Been at this forever, hustle game and part-time. Got the game from my aunt, yeah, I got an old soul. Got a tongue hot as Hades and I'm so damn cold. Said I got an old soul, fuck with me, feel the heat. California earthquake, a nigga heavy in these streets. Don't fuck with these niggas, don't play with a bitch. Convo ain't about money, you ain't talking about shit. Done found a nigga niche, motherfucker, I'm the shit. Disrespectful with the spit, figure 8 in this bitch. Who you niggas really with when we at the finish line? My fucking future so bright, you can see it if you're blind. I might leave this bitch tomorrow. I ain't wasting no time. Niggas playing with these streets, but ain't no kidding about mine. Wait a minute, I'm just trying to clean my plate. Too much heat for these niggas got them pushing back their dates. Wait a minute, we been sipping on this potent. Catch us at the light, real ones in the bucket, hella choking. Wait a minute, nigga, when shit was going down, I be the realest motherfucker, never had to dust a crown. Wait a minute, on my mama, nigga, I ain't never lied. MOS until my death, nigga, I'm hustle certified, nigga.
Yeah, you listening to that Cat Zone. It's your boy DJ Rowe. Anna, you in the building? Anna, you in the building?
Yeah, I am.
All right.
I'm in the building. Was just having a computer moment, but yeah. What's up? I'm in the building. Facebook is in the building. We are having a guest tonight who will be in the building. So yeah, I got this on. How's it going?
Pretty good. Today was a very hot, long day.
Oh yeah, it is fucking hot, huh? Yeah. So we got an event this week.
Yes, we do.
It seems like it just came up really fast.
Oh.
Well, no, I mean, it's cool. I didn't do much publicity or anything, but
It's all right.
yeah. Hopefully just informing people will do it. But yeah, everybody come down. It's Blaxploitation night at Infinity.
Yes.
Integrity. I get that mixed up.
You know, I was about to say that. I was like, Infinity.
Yeah.
What is Infinity? Well, then I was like, I know she meant integrity.
Yeah. Get that. I get that mixed up. So it's going to be Cleopatra Jones, and see, the reason when we were at Ugly Sundays last week in the Mission District, it makes me nostalgic because the reason I know about Blaxploitation is because of places like that. There was a video store named, there used to be video stores where there would be real obscure films and also just artistic and genres and all of that. So there were always Blaxploitation sections, and the art house movie places would have Blaxploitation festivals. So yeah, that's how I know about Blaxploitation. So yeah, it's cool because, I mean, just thinking about how people used to be able to find out about stuff. I mean, there's all this stuff. I mean, if I didn't pay attention to stuff, I would be really out of it. I mean, before there were computers, I never had a TV. I mean, So there was just a lot of stuff I didn't know about. So there's just so much stuff I've been able to catch up with on YouTube. So, but yeah, there's people that are saying they're going to come down to that, and hopefully,
nice.
Yeah. This past Friday night was Art Walk, and there were a lot of people. They were having something there. I couldn't quite figure out what it was, but I don't know. There didn't seem to be that many people, but Fridays are tricky. Fridays are iffy, but
very tricky.
Yeah. Art Walk in Vallejo, though, is hopping. There are so many. I mean, it's cool because there's even fewer actual galleries than there used to be, but it's all people just setting up on the sidewalk, which is really cool. It gives you a chance to directly support artists and see people's work. And there is a friend of ours named Tamala, and her daughter is Mila. They are both so fucking talented. I mean, they're academically and artistically. So Mila does art and Kamala does art. And she also, it turns out, cooks. She was making vegan tacos. They were really good. So I'm not hugely, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even sure. She just had like all these different fruits, and I'm not even sure, because you can also just say plant-based, and that's kind of a more chill way to express things than vegan. Because when you hear vegan, you're just like, okay, people are really uptight. But I mean, if you plant-based means when you make it about what you have, what you are eating and making. It's not about what you're not having. Focus on what you're doing. But anyway, it was really good. I think I might ask her to make it for a party I'm planning. And the pickle, and then there's lots of people out on Saturdays too. And there's these really awesome pickle vendors, and they have like different gourmet pickles, I guess. So they're always real cool to me. And I put their logo on any of the stuff I'm making. So hopefully they'll come down for that, because people are definitely intrigued by hearing that there's going to be a Blaxploitation festival. So I've been reading about kind of a couple gloomy things this week. But we're going to start with Mormon cults. Violent Mormon cults. I happened to pick up a book called The Sound of Gravel, and it was by a woman who'd escaped a cult. And what happened, Mormonism is considered to be the only American religion, the only religion that originated in the United States. So I learned a while ago, actually, that's why there's a lot of immigrants become Mormons. But Mormons were kind of notorious for being polygamists, but that was outlawed. It was the sort of thing where I think a lot of religions or people decide to just kind of get in line with the government. So there were, and in a way, I don't know. I mean, it's strange to me in a way that polygamy is the core. They put it like in a way of polygamy is the cornerstone of the faith. That's how you're going to go to heaven. Which that's the part I kind of don't understand, because I don't really have opinions necessarily about people marrying or having relationships or whatever with more than one person, but it just seems like, so far as worship and doing stuff, like most religions kind of talk about doing good deeds and stuff. I mean, just your lifestyle, your life choices, I don't think that should be what gets you to heaven. So there were offshoots of the faith, and that's important to clarify, because just about, I think all religions that I can think of anyway have offshoots that are real extremists, and the regular people really don't like being lumped in with that, understandably. And it's a damaging way to think. So there's people, so in the 1930s, Mormons, there were Mormons that split off from the group, from the mainstream church, and moved to Mexico. And I guess, so they had and still have kind of encampments and colonies there. And I'm not sure how they, maybe just with the way the laws work, people aren't, like, the Mexican government doesn't really care so much, or they form relationships with them, because I'm not sure they remain citizens of, many of them do remain, because you can like remain a citizen of the United States and just go cross the border. And in these books, they would do that. All these books took place on, it was during the 70s and 80s. And so they would cross the border to go get their food stamps and shop with them, because back in those days, there were actually food stamps, not EBT cards like there are now. And so in these offshoots of Mormonism, women are just nothing. Women have no power, no control. They're just there to have babies, and as many babies as possible. The other memoir I read was by somebody who was one of 50 children. Her dad had 13 wives and 50 children. And people, when you live like that, it just means that your family is just narcissistic. It means that people like that just care about having a bunch of kids as like a reputation sort of thing. Their kids are not individuals, and they sure as fuck do not feel obligated to any responsibility for them, to provide for them. And all the accounts I've read from those memoirs, from those people, are food deprivation. They lived in houses with no plumbing, just really like what you would consider primitive in a bad way. I mean, if you want to go live off the grid, there's ways to do that and have your water be sanitary and stuff like that, to have medical care. And they didn't have any of that. And the women would just keep having babies, and then they turn the babies over to the older girls in the family just to basically just sort of train them to be wives and mothers. So the two memoirs I read were referring to each other. The writers were cousins, because that's the thing. I mean, if you have a community like that, everybody is going to be everybody's cousins, basically. And you just have like half siblings, and then there's favoritism. That was one of the things I was reading about the families, is that some of them would sort of deliberately try and drive wedges between them. If you have a family with like 50 kids, they would deliberately, they just would split up the families and send kids to go live with somebody who was not their biological mother, just to try and reinforce their ideology. And the kids didn't go to school. Some of them basically worked in a sweatshop. Christopher just asked me to he just sent a message asking for you to send him the meeting ID. I sent him the link.
Send who the meeting ID?
Christopher, who's coming on the show on the show tonight.
Are you talking about Saint?
I guess so. Whomever was, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
hold on.
Okay. So they and so the father of one of them was named Ervil LeBaron, who's known as the Mormon Manson. He was just this religious fanatic that he killed his own brother. He would just order assassinations of anybody who tried to leave the cult. And so people just became so under his spell that they would do that. They would kill for him. I mean, there's people that are just so able to manipulate others and convince them that people that leave their cult deserve to die. And so this guy was on the run from the FBI. So the kids just would have all these recollections of just being the middle of the night and being told to pack up and move and just living in terror all the time. And so and some of it was real, but then you kind of think people like that also get really paranoid too. So, so then they had accounts of Ervil LeBaron was being tracked in Mexico. So they'd have the Mexico cops looking for them. So one of them wound up running away when she was just 13 years old and going to live with another sibling, and just needing to basically work full time, go to school, and take care of the other siblings' babies. They just had this mentality that everybody was just supposed to work all the time, and that they just felt like she just would feel like she was obligated to do that because these people were saving her from that life. So it was quite intense and emotional. And here is our guest. What's up?
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing?
Good. Thank you. Thanks for
appreciate
coming. Yeah. So I think I've met you at some of the different shows, and so yes, I'm happy you can come on ours.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So do you go by Saint or?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I go by Saint.
Okay. Because I was just going by whatever was on Facebook, but fortunately it was all.
If I could just give one shout out, I just see a good friend of mine. Her name is Boo Boo Rodriguez, and I think she said, "I'm glad to see you if you're still watching." So, hey, I'm alive. Okay, that's all right. She's a good friend of mine, and we've actually have worked a little bit together. So it's it's good to see you up in the chat. It's a nice circle of people, man. I love this shit.
Yeah, it is. Oh yeah. Oh, is she in the YouTube chat?
Yes, ma'am. She is.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm always, but yeah, well, she's welcome to come on at some point, definitely.
Okay.
So can you tell people a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, me, my name is my government name is actually Christopher, but I don't talk about it much. But no, I'm called the Saint. I happen to run and co-run a network or a group of network shows, which is represented by what we call First Gen Xers. And First Gen Xers is pretty much not necessarily the the first generation, but actually the meaning of the name is pretty much relevant to today's, well, I guess within the last maybe 20 or 30 years. We're the first generation that gamed. We're the 90s generation. We changed the landscape of the music in the 90s, because I mean, that's where my 20s started.
Yeah.
When it came to where the first generation of podcasters.
Yeah.
And I mean, even at that time, it was called internet radio.
Yeah.
So we're called the first Gen Xers for that, for those reasons. And we're the 45, 50 plus that are currently kind of running the world right now with things. And so, you know, we're the latchkey kids, we're the generation that has the worst reputation, but we're the generation that we will bite back if you bite us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, we run on those ideologies for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're also the forgotten generation, but
we so are. But
yeah.
I actually appreciate that. I feel that I feel that for the most part, like there were some drawbacks in some respects to being kind of like ignored and left on my own a lot, but it made me really resourceful. So I would rather be resourceful than be waiting around for other people. So, you know, there's always yeah.
I mean, it was meant, I guess it was meant for, because I mean, our parents, I mean, the baby boomers, and, the divorce rate during the 70s and so forth. I mean, that was the time to like separate on a lot of parents' aspects and everything like that. So yeah, it was a different time, but we learned how to sustain ourselves. We learned how to cook our own meals. We had to learn how to practically clean up the house and so forth, because I mean, don't get me wrong, not all millennials are, not all millennials are, I guess what you would say, are lazy. I mean, some millennials agree. Actually, I'll say most millennials will pretty much have the Gen X values, but it's a little set in their time. But Gen Z, I mean, there are some Gen Zers out there, but it's like a lot of them want that, they want to have participation trophies.
Yeah.
It's like you want a nice warm hug just because you lost the baseball game. Like, toughen up, kid, get some cojones,
I don't appreciate, like, I was at a city council meeting and like the first half hour was taken up by some like high school students talking about their trip to Washington, D.C. I get sick of going to meetings that are supposed to be about stuff and listening. For some reason, people bring in like high schoolers to talk about themselves. I'm not their parent. I'm like, okay, people have taken their time to come out to meetings. And so, yeah.
Because, and I'm not one, I'm really not like hardcore with with politics, because it's like you got baby boomers over here, you got you got the Gen Xers here in the middle, and then you have the millennials. They're the ones that are fighting. Gen X is looking at this like, what's going on here? Like it is, it is what it is. And I mean, I paid attention to it, and because I lived in the South for about a good 8 or 9 years, and the politics are so different, especially when you live in a Republican state.
Yeah.
The politics are different, the ideologies are different. And me growing up in one of the most functioning liberal states in the union, is like, when it comes to racism and stuff like that, like they call me the N-word. I'm looking at them like, I've been called that all my life. Like, I've been called everything but a child of God, but like, okay, and I've been called worse, but I mean, I just don't, I don't bother with it. I try not to get into a lot of that. But I know that in some cases I have to get into it. But I try to not like walk purposely into it, because I'm just trying to live my life. I'm trying to live life on my own terms. I'm trying to build this network up, especially that we had to deal with COVID.
Wow.
COVID changed a lot of things with the digital world, this entertainment, the whole 9 yards. So it's like, it's just different. It's a different time after 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It really is. And
And many industries are starting to suffer. So it's like, that's one of the reasons why I'm so thankful that I had my first computer when I was 13, and I learned how to code my own games. So
yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I've stayed in it for so long.
Yeah.
I've stayed in it for so long. And then a few years ago, I learned about a gentleman, escapes my name. He escapes my, oh, I'm sorry. Jerry Lawson. And he was the very first, he's a black engineer, and he made the very first console before Atari.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Before Atari. He did help to engineer the Atari 2600, but his name is Jerry Lawson. Look him up. And he created a system called the Channel F. So when I find out that my people not only have created, different types of entertainment, but created the first console, the first one, oh yeah. So I'm heavily into the I'm also heavily, not necessarily, but into the music and the podcasts and so, because I have those kind of things, but I'm also heavily into the gaming. No stress. I can relax. It helps me to elevate my thinking, because I've had 2 strokes. So it helps me to think when I do word games and so forth. So it's kind of education.
So when you say gaming, when does the kind of gaming that you're talking about, when would you say that began?
Well, like with the Atari 2600, I've done all of that since maybe like 1980, 81, and I have just progressed over the years. And like I said, I learned how to code my own games, like sat at the keys and programmed the game in, and it was something that it was beautiful. It was like this was something that I did and something that I wanted to play. So it's like when I have my own games and stuff like that, and it's really a beautiful thing. It really is. And I've stuck with it, and I've gotten a chance to meet people and do all kinds of media and everything like that, my content creations and so forth. And then um, this logo I have back here, I'm part of a group called the Black Gamers United. Um, we come together and just, and be social, but, we talk amongst the business world and the things that happens with gaming and so forth, even in the Black community, because it's a very, very, very large community. And that's also maybe one of the reasons why Jerry Lawson has, his name has really been coming out there. So it's like, there's a lot of groups of Black gamers and, of all ages too,
What's
of
the
all
difference
ages.
between gamers and playing games?
Well, playing the games, most people are casual.
Yeah.
When it comes to gamers, people are there like some are competition, some may like make them. Sometimes they program gamers. Sometimes just like reviewers or things like that. I mean, there's all different types of gamers.
Yeah.
But it's it's a wonderful thing, and it also depends on the game. Like Hollywood budget movies, like there's this movie called Uncharted. Is in movie Tom Holland. I know you've seen that, right? That's based on a game series.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on a game series. It's kind of like one of those globe-trotting type of history, like a Raiders of the Lost Ark type of deal, but it comes with all kinds of adventures, cliffhangers. It's kind of like a movie, but you play your own. And I actually got a little more into it because I could see myself creating those types of stories. But it's almost better than a big Hollywood blockbuster movie but you just program it and you have voice actors and the whole 9 yards. And it's a really wonderful medium. It's a really wonderful medium. But when you object a little culture into it, like right now, I've been completing this game called Mafia 3. And the protagonist is Black, and it takes place in 1968 in a fictional version of New Orleans called New Bordeaux. And when I tell you that in 1968, it was really serious. You had the Ku Klux Klan. Women were going around clutching their purses and so forth. And it was telling you there were shops that had no colors, like whites only. Like, yeah, and it's a big culture shock. And people are like, well, you don't want to see that. Yeah, we do. We need to see stuff like this. We need to see stuff like this. That game, and I'm still in the middle of that game because it's like it's telling a story.
That's a good game.
And yeah, it's really like you would really sit up here and be like, this is like really, really real. I mean, they talked a little bit about the Black Panthers, about the Chicago 7. They talked a little bit about the Iran getting disposed. Like the soundtrack was all 1960s music with the Rolling Stones. Yeah, that it's like when you turn on the radio, and it's like it's a real serious Hollywood production, but it's a story, but it takes place in 1968. and it's about a black character too, and it's really really good. But when you see it, and of course it has a rating of M for
Yeah, it's mature.
for
It's definitely
mature.
mature.
Yeah, it's like it is not, and that's the other thing too about it. Like these games are not for the kids. These games are clearly not for kids. A lot of these games were designed with stories for us in mind.
Have
Like
you played
that's
the
like our playground.
Have you played the first two?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
The one in the 1930s, and then the one in the 1940s.
Yeah, they did a real good job on how, like you said, how they set the scenery for those times. Like it's
Absolutely.
crazy, man. Crazy.
Yeah, and then and then too, like here's a perfect game. It's kind of a puzzler game right now, but it's a game called Dandara, and it's about it's the spirit of a 16th century Amazonian warrior, and her name was Dandara, and she existed. I can't remember, like maybe the 16th century, but she was a warrior, and I mean she she took a lot of folks down. She took a lot of folks down. You can look her up.
So let me ask you, saying while I got you in the game mode, because I'm kind of a casual gamer.
Yes, sir.
I work a lot, so I try to stick with my games, but I'll get games and just never beat them, but I still have them. So when I have a chance to get to them, I'll do them. What game would you suggest, like a few games you would suggest to get right now?
Ooh, man, let me see. Well, that depends. That depends on the system. That depends on what you're playing, because like right now, the hottest thing going on right now is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And yeah.
Okay.
That's what's going on with Nintendo right now too. There's the Hogwarts game that everybody's been pushing on. You got Street Fighter 6 coming out in the next couple of weeks. I know Spider-Man 2 is coming out in August. That's for the PS5. Of course, the sports games are still coming. And then WWE just 2K23 was just released not too long ago.
Nice. Okay.
But I tend to play anything that has a stealth element to it, like Assassin's Creed, and more historical figures like Leonardo da Vinci, and you were
right,
kind of like getting involved with this. So yeah, I like that kind of stuff.
So what would a game with Leonardo da Vinci be or do? Or
well,
he's talking about Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, he's talking about Assassin's Creed. It's a series, and it goes across history. It's about maybe 16. I think maybe 16 of these games, but they start during the Crusades, and it's a fight against the well, at least the first game it started. It's a fight against the Templars, and the Templars are trying to rule the world, and these assassins are trying to stop them. And I mean, it's been years and years. It started off in the Crusades. There's, I think, the most important protagonist is this guy named Ezio Auditore, and he was his father was a fluent banker. He was also an assassin, and they were trying to bring a new pope. They were trying to the Templars. Yeah, the Templars were trying to bring this new pope to, and the assassins were trying to actually stop them. And Leonardo da Vinci
Yeah.
Like for real,
Yeah.
like the real Machiavelli. And then there are other historical figures like not the Civil War, but the Revolutionary War, dealing with characters like Ben Franklin and what's his name? George Washington too.
Oh, Alexander Hamilton.
Yeah, Alexander Hamilton.
People talk
Aaron Burr, Thomas Jefferson. I mean, it's about pretty much leading up to the signing of the Declaration of Independence, and it's a really good series of games, but it does teach you a little bit of history, and it makes you look up like what's going on here.
Okay, because I certainly hear things from people that they've learned about from games. So
yeah. And you know, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and say, you know, it's like all completely bullshit, because I mean, there are some out there that's just like, I don't want to do that, but it helps you to think.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to look outside the box. And that's one of the reasons why, you know, I drew myself into it, because it helps me to, you know, keep my memories and stuff intact. Like I do a lot of puzzle games and a lot of logic, you know, even within those adventure games.
Yeah, me
and
too.
it helps you to push the story along. Because, you know, like I said, you know, I've had 2 strokes. So I've had to try to remember certain things. And I've tried to re-educate myself, not necessarily just reading a book, but also trying to project visually in what, you know, what I want to see. So that's why I like gaming. It's like a book, because you do sometimes have to read, because sometimes you do read instructions, but you have a book, you have a story, you have a context, you have a body, and then you have, you know, your epilogue.
Yeah, most games nowadays, the newer games, you definitely got to you got to really read it to beat the game and understand the game. If you're not reading what, you know, characters are saying and what's going on, it's almost like impossible to beat some of them games.
Exactly. And it's you know, it's important. And then it also depends on the kind of games that you play too, because I do more of an adventure, but I also do strategy. I love like a good game of chess, or trying to figure out how many moves that person should make before he fires a shot. And you have to sometimes think ahead.
You like
Am
FPSs?
I going to look at that? Huh?
You like FPSs?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Some like Call of Duty, Battlefield 2042 was trash. But I do like some. That it all depends.
Right.
It all depends. But I just like a good story though.
Yeah.
Because I like writing. Yeah. But when it comes to games, like I said, games with history and stuff like that, I'm all in it all day. Because I know you're a history major too, right, Anna? So
yes, I am. Yeah. I'd love to check one of those out. A friend of mine, there's a learning center in this area, and so a friend of mine runs it, and it's also just a real community spot. So I go down there, and I like from there, I kind of have the chance to like go in some of the room where all the like young kids and stuff are playing with the games and kind of trying. I was like, oh, okay, now I get what people are talking about.
I could tell you this much. I could tell you this much, that it's like you would have to learn, because when a kid plays a game, it's a whole different mindset than when an adult tackles it,
Oh yeah, I
because
mean, I just mean like, I don't even, because I just mean to like get a look at what people are doing, basically, because I hadn't, yeah.
yeah.
I
Well,
know.
yeah, and I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's still that different mindset,
Yeah.
because it's like a gamer like me, um, like I'm looking at everything, the logic of why it's happening. I mean, you actually have to sometimes have key, split second decisions, because especially when you're online,
Yeah.
it's really, you have to really think ahead of the curve. And that's, and it's not necessarily the spirit of the competition or what have you, but it's just a learning process. And that you have all these buttons and stuff like that, but it's like, that's why I love to learn it, because sometimes, I'll put it to you this way: I've learned to try to stay in step with pretty much everything,
Yeah.
because like I said, my first computer, I guarantee you, if I had never gotten my first computer, I think that I probably would have been lost in the sauce with
Yeah.
all of it.
Wow.
Because you have to keep evolving.
Yeah.
You have to keep going forward. That's like with everything that you do, in life, whatever politics you deal with, whatever kind of games you may like to play. Because I mean, I still play board games every once in a while.
Yeah.
Music, technology, and you kind of have to stay ahead of the curve. Like I have an 83-year-old uncle.
Yeah.
That's his computer, and he got into that. He's actually the one that actually got me into computers, and it served well. I mean, he uses his computer like it's nothing. Like, there's still things that I need to learn that I can learn from him. And he's like, "Yeah, whippersnapper, come get this."
Yeah. Yeah. We're always a whippersnapper to someone.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can think of some pretty interesting political ones that could be made, historical ones, the 1948 Texas Senate election. And yeah, I mean, because
they have stuff, there are things they do. I could tell you that, I could tell you this much. As a matter of fact, I think Mafia 2 talked about the stuff like that, with those kind of the elections. I think, as a matter of fact, you coming up with the one about that Texas, I think it was the Texas election right before the McCarthy hearings and that era and all that other kind of stuff.
1948.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, you sit in there and you learn, and then you sit up here and like, wait a minute, I learned that from a game. Oh, excuse me, sir, got a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
It's the best stories, or the best things that are written, should always have some kind of historical context, because and it's based on that. I mean, pretty much everything has some kind of history, whether it's music, whether it's some kind of item or a treasure hunt or something like that. It's always, you always lead back to history.
Yeah. Yeah.
You always lead back to history.
Yeah.
So, but tell me something. So, how long have you been, studying history and so forth?
Well, I've always been interested in it, but I mean, again, Gen X, I've had a couple careers, and so I trained in archiving a couple years ago, and that archiving is kind of in service to history, where you're finding information and cataloging and organizing information that other people need for research. I definitely do my own research, but I like to read books, like like a book like this. I'm not going to write a book like that, but people that do need archivists. And to go, like, you can be going through, like, I'm cataloging and indexing handwritten notes of the collection at a museum here of just clothing. And it's just so, but there's information that when it gets to the right people, it's really important and very political. So like property records, that's very, and you need to be able to look at them. Like I was going through records of like housing development here in Vallejo, and you would really need to look for evidence of redlining. And I really would have needed a lot more like outside information to do that, but it's just kind of an example. And I mean, people's diaries, memoirs, I was really inspired by a biography of Malcolm X where they reconstructed the last 2 years of his life. And so with archives, with things like train tickets, trying to figure out where people were and what they were doing. Like I archived 100 years of a ladies' garden club. So just trying to find things in other places. And again, I mean, and it is extremely political to me to try and get information out for anybody for people that have been underrepresented and disenfranchised, because, I mean, there's plenty of records of people with power, and so it's a real luxury to be able to have that, and to try and find information for people that have been in danger, that have had to hide. So then you really need to interpret information and find out what was going on. I love church records. So I started producing public history events, films, and discussions for people to talk about, to learn and discuss. I do oral histories with people, and that's really important. That, like you're talking about with getting, with like 1968. I mean, I've interviewed a friend of mine about the night that Martin Luther, she was in Harlem when, hi babe, when Martin Luther King was assassinated, and just getting memories like that from people is just really, really important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in 1968, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just an example, I mean, this is like a 75-year-old lady that grew up in Mississippi. And so I need to use my historical information, because like, to me, in order to make this interesting, you have to have historical knowledge yourself. So I was asking her about the Defender, the African-American newspaper, and her family, where they got it, and just putting things together like
Could you give me just one moment? Yeah. I'll be right back. Yeah, I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want to go to a music break real quick?
Yeah, perfect timing.
All
okay.
Right.
Yeah, let's. Okay, people, we'll be back.
The following program contains scenes and language of a frank and explicit nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good evening, gentlemen. That what you have inside of your clutch at the current moment, that is a product of the future. This is something which allows you to see inside of the future. See the world as you would love to see it. Tell me, sir. What do you see?
Man, I see me moving objects with my head. When it turn nighttime, the sky's red. Flame blows from the poles up on my bed. 6 holes on it, 1 between my legs. Everyone's a freak. Everyone's real. Everyone speaks how everyone feels. Everyone's chill. Nobody has to hide in how you look in the mirrors, how you look inside. Dance. or a dime a dozen. No need for money and no need for you to budget. No need to do whatever if you do not love it. Ain't no need to walk cause we fly above shit. Believe in unison. There's one company in the world called Unipeace. All sales is the underlying true belief. I got a piece cause this price tag too much for me. Imagine a pair of shades that you see in the store that let you see your future and what it has in store. What if it let you make the world like you would like to be? Once you put it on, what do you see?
What do I see?
It's quite simple, sir. The world is not what you
What
perceive
do I
it to be,
see?
sir. You make it, sir.
What do I see? Sight for the blind, direction for the mind. No such employment lines. Every crib got a view, stacks to the roof. What's the W2 when you work for you? Trip step.
Mind goes too deep, sir. You don't understand what you've just done. You see what you just realized is that chaos is a necessary part of the world. There is no perfect world because there is no perfect thing inside of the world. There is no perfect anything. That's the truth. Say, sir.
We are back, y'all. Anna, you in the building?
Yeah, I am.
All right, back in time. Sorry.
Good.
Had to get groceries, so
Oh yeah. Yeah.
in the house. But I'm
Yeah,
sorry, what were we?
Working on a game would be fun. I mean, to contribute to history in that way,
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. And like I said, I love, especially I think one of the best games that actually spoke in a historical context. It was a game called Metal Gear Solid 3 is Snake Eater, and it takes place back in 1964, right after the Kennedy assassination, and Johnson and Khrushchev were having discussions on sending defectors back and all that other kind of stuff. And you sit up there and you're like, damn, did this like really happen?
Yeah, did it?
I mean, it was so intense that something like that could have possibly happened.
Okay, because that's like with my comic book, I've had, that's been really fun for me. It's like, being able to take the historical license to put down things that could have happened, but it's on a much smaller scale than things like Johnson and Khrushchev. I haven't gotten to that point in Johnson's biographies yet. So, wow.
Okay. Yeah. Man, that's what's up. That's definitely what's up. But yeah, I mean, I like, like the historical significance, like right now, and I guess this is the first time that I've ever talked about it. So I actually do deal with with the comic book world as well. And when I there's a character that I created. This was back in like 1998, and because it was right after my youngest son was born, and I just created these characters, but over time, it has become its own entire universe, and a lot of it affects history, as it were. So the character's history starts back in 1846. And I use a part of the Civil War where the character was helping out, like one of the stories that there was an assassination attempt on Harriet Tubman, and this character kind of like, was trying to help him out because, Harriet was just running back and forth to the South, and they kind of like put somebody on her.
Yeah.
So, it's kind of like stories like that, or the inspirations to what the Black Panthers were and so forth, and areas of stuff like Reconstruction. So, yeah, and these are stories that have crossed generations with one particular hero, but the current hero is like, she's pretty much the anomaly because she's the first woman. She's the first woman of this generations of males that have, been through this, but this is the first woman, and this is also a hero that's been spoken of many, many years, but they're not sure if she can cut the mustard to hold the values that so many generations have depended on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my big thing, and that's coming at some point. But yeah, that's how I actually, because Age Scott was actually I was working with him when I started doing that.
So yeah, man, give it an Age, man. Hey, Age, you're the best.
Yeah, we've been knowing each other almost 30 years now.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm
dang. I hate to think that.
Age. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, growing old is a blessing. I mean, I don't know. I have a lot more fun as an older person than I did as a younger person.
I will tell you this. I have actually had more fun now than I do back then. I mean, I got into the clubs and I got into all the shenanigans of what a young man could do. But I've learned to appreciate life. I've learned to appreciate what is given before me, and I really look at that. I really look at that. I have had some close calls with with my health and so forth. So I really am taking my time to keep it together. And, I want to be able at some point that I'll have grandchildren.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah, not in a hurry for that.
Well, no, I wouldn't mind, but it's like, my oldest son my oldest son will be 30.
Wow.
And he has no kids.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I'm waiting. And then my youngest son is 25. Mm-hmm. So, and he really doesn't have a desire for kids right now anyway. I mean, I have adopted kids everywhere, but it's like just, to come from my, my essence from this part of me, but I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
So you have the two kids?
No, my oldest is 30.
Yeah.
Well, he'll be 30 in June. My middle son is 26 and my youngest son is 25.
Oh, okay.
But I have, like I said, I have other adopted kids, and because the thing about it is that you don't divorce parents. I mean, you divorce parents, but you never divorce kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my thing is that if an absent parent, that parent should sometimes still pick up the slack, because I mean, in this day and age, if they know you, or if they've learned to live around you, and you need to still kind of like be in their presence. And I think that's important, especially for young Black males. So, and I know a few, that other than my own, that I still kind of look out for.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
So it's important, because all our kids, this is where we are right now.
And it's just
You
what makes so much difference. Well, for me, it's just one of the things that's more enjoyable about getting older is having more commonality with people, and being able to just have better relationships with people. And some of that, has been relationships I've had with like people that are now young adults that I've known since they were teeny. And that, I don't know, I mean, you just have more. Yeah, you have more similar experiences over more time. So I just have a lot more fun talking with people now than I used to. So,
understood.
Yeah. And I'm just not
understood.
Most of all. So you get some shit knocked out of you, man. I mean, I'm like, because I get asked like, why are you so chill about stuff? It's like, because I was so fucking crazy and wound up, man. I mean,
I'll put it to you this way. Like, growing up during especially my teenage years during the 80s. Yeah. And of course, that was a very, very dangerous time, especially in deep East Oakland. And, you'd have to get home before the sun went down. And it's like, these days now, it's just going down in broad daylight, and they do, they'll do walk-bys. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's crazy, but like I said, I'm thankful, because a lot of people aren't here anymore. Yeah. A lot of people are not here. A lot of the friends that I was in high school with, some are either, and I mean, there have been some good ones, but some are either, dead or in jail.
Yeah.
Or, or incapacitated.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a different way, that's not my life experience, but with other stuff that's happened, like basically, I'm fucking lucky to be alive. Real lucky.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm just, I'm fortunate, but it's, it's always trying to, it's not always trying to survive. I have to learn, it's sometimes how to look at it and how to live. And I mean, I am fortunate to be around people that that look out.
Yeah.
So, I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, shit, man, this whole network right here, man. DJ Rowe and Age Shantae was watching, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I give a shout out to the, to the whole channel,
Yeah.
because like, with the soup, and now, I guess it's come full circle, because now I've had the opportunity to come onto your show, because it's like I get in there and get with it, then I tap in, and then my friend is, streams on Twitch and stuff, and I look out for him. So I've tried to go back and forth, but today was just one of those days that he needed to get it done by himself, and that's what was happening. So I just needed to be here. But I'm thankful, though. I'm gladly, because I get the whole full circle now, because you got the happy hour,
Yeah.
then you got the soup,
Yeah.
and now you got now
Global
you have your show. Yeah, global, man. I like this.
Yeah. Well, good. Yeah. I mean, it's great. Yeah. It's great to have you on. I mean, it's definitely, I mean, talking about our generation being like the first podcasting generation and all that, I mean, it's pretty remarkable. And we were able to do desktop publishing. I mean, I remember when I was younger, when I got rid of some of them now, but I mean, there were chat books. It was the beginning of people having a lot more avenues to express themselves, which is, I mean, now I think there's too many avenues for people to express themselves. I was reading an article about the difference between opinion and criticism, and that criticism, it was by a fashion journalist, and criticism is about how to think about things, how to look at things. It's interpretations of things, not just your opinion. Because like somebody who if it can be something I'm not interested in a topic necessarily, but I can be interested in the criticism of it, because it will put it in a larger picture. But just running your mouth about, I mean, it's just it is a problem. It is unfortunate that there's just too many, there's too much, I don't know, we know
criticism.
Well, no, I mean, if it were too much opinions, in a way, I mean, criticism is informed. I mean, I'm on a podcast about Bewitched, the TV show, and before the podcast, I'll watch the episode a couple times in order to come up. I also do fashion analysis of it, to come up with something interesting to say. And everybody, like, there's somebody on the podcast who's a professor of television history, so he'll have information about that. And there's some other people that are just super obsessed, and so like they'll know like what was going on the night when this first aired. So, I mean, it's not just our opinion, we're also giving information and things we've spent time putting together. Some of us are.
Right.
I'm getting worried that I'm running out of stuff to say, and that on that topic, I have the fashion analysis. Like, I like to talk about the function of the story and stuff like that. But
in other words, so it's like you're not just asking why it happened, but the logic for the reason why it happened. Well, or it's kind of like it's like you're breaking the logic down in so many different parts, and it's still a part of who, what, when, where, and why.
Yeah, how the story functions. But yeah, I'm definitely getting a little nervous about it, because I mean, I'm looking back over like 2 years of episodes, and I'm like, okay, shit, so what can I say now? So but I love being on that podcast. It's so you can find communities of people that are excited about stuff you're excited about.
Well, the thing about it is too, though, is that you can look at an episode like there was a TV series that I watched from beginning to end, and I mean every single episode, and it was a TV show called Prison Break. And yeah, you know about that, don't you, Ro?
Yeah, I know about Prison Break.
Yeah. It was, it was 5 seasons, but the story, it was kind of like, I don't know how the story could tell you, but it's like something was always surprising. Somebody always pulled a rabbit out of their hat in some way, and the suspense was always killer. So yeah.
But what you do, the trick of something like that, or what keeps people watching, or makes people really attached, is this mixture of the familiar and something new, of the mixture of it, because it's just one or the other. If it's something new, if it's all something new every time, you might not feel so attached to it. But if it's always the same, you'll get bored. So that's kind of, that's this idea about like really any sort of like really great art or music or anything. It's going to take something people are familiar with and put in something new. That's what gets people really attached. So, that's what Bach did. And there's certainly, that just happens to be something I know more about. But like with Bewitched, there's the magic sound. So you know something's going to happen, but you don't know what. So I don't know. This example of talking about like the function of storytelling. But with anything, when you look at like radical, musicians, people that are doing something new, it's just going to be a mixture, usually anyway.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is. It's like when I do my shows, and the music sometimes is selected by, not necessarily what's in the community, but the stuff that may be a little bit outside it. You want to be able to hear something. Like I have this segment at the beginning of my show, and it's called what we call the conscious moment. And it's a song, it may be something that is thought-provoking, but also something that may have been slept on, or something that may have been overmissed, or you might have missed. And it's like, even if it's in the past, or if it's in the present, it's just a thing that I've been doing for the entire time that I've been doing the show. But it's a different type of flavor, like just something like that really hidden gem. And actually, I know I've done a couple of conscious moments in the past with Age, where he's been involved with his music. But I think that was back in like 2016, 2017, when he really started doing his music.
That's what sampling does.
Yeah.
That's when because I was first, when I was first learning more about writing and music and everything, again, like going back to being in my 20s and just this really developing my aesthetic and stuff like that. And that's when, when like more white people were like first hearing like rap for the first time. And that just blew my mind, because I was learning about that concept. And so the thing that you could just put familiar music in with something new. That was just amazing to me, and just really helped me formulate my thoughts and ideas about art and artists. So yeah, because that's just amazing. I think it's just the urge for the familiar and the new. So.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'm a rewatcher too. Do you guys rewatch shows and stuff you like?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One of the shows I can't think of it right offhand. Well, one of the shows, example, Prison Break. That's a show that I've watched over and over again because it's new, or I mean, it's like you see something new.
Yeah.
And every time you watch an episode, you look for something new or something you may have just missed.
Yeah.
And then because later on down the line, what you call a quote unquote Easter egg, you'll be like, okay, now I know what's going on here. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big rewatcher. Well, because also it's fun. Like, I mean, when I go back and forth because I mean, when I go back and like reread something I read 30 years ago or something, I mean, I'm practically a different person. So you just as we change, we can interpret things differently. So, but yeah, I can definitely watch Bewitched different. There's certain Bewitched episodes I can always watch. And there's, oh man, I can always watch like Dog Day Afternoon.
Okay. Dick York or Dick Sargent?
Dick York.
Okay.
Yeah. What about you?
Oh, Dick York.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, definitely.
I mean, the case of the Darrens, like,
yeah,
kind of look a little like, okay, one season and then hold on, you get this next guy, like, who the hell is he?
Yeah. I mean, I've grown to appreciate Sargent more just because of some of the people in the podcast that are so fanatic about it. But what I love about, to me, because they think that there's people that think that Dick York is just really angry, that Darren is always angry all the time. And I just think it was so well acted that it was just completely believable to me that most of the time he was a really sweet guy. So, I mean, that's when you, or there's this idea with actors that, like with somebody that's really good, they can tell you what the character had for breakfast that day or something. When it's not part of the story. It's so established. They're so established as a character that you know about things that you haven't even seen.
Right. That's an important concept. But let me ask you this: do you have a favorite?
Yeah, I do. A couple favorites. I mean, the ones where and Dora and Uncle Arthur. Those are some of my. Yeah.
And Dr. Bombay.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, I love him.
Yeah. I think I think the one episode I remember that I think it was an advertisement type of thing, and Samantha turned Darren into a little boy, and I think it was about some kind of product. But the funny part was at the end of the episode, he turned him into a little boy again, so he can go out and play basketball. That shit was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Just to be a kid, just to be a kid again,
Oh, definitely. Well, and it's funny too that like the difference between now and then. I mean, whatever, there was like a couple channels. I mean, a lot of us do have shared memories and experiences because there was just a lot less media. And so now, I mean, there's just so much stuff out there. You just don't, it's harder to find things in common with people necessarily. I mean, yeah, I guess during COVID, there were a lot of people discovered the Sopranos. There was like there gets to be resurgences.
The Sopranos.
Yeah.
That I didn't get a chance to. I didn't get a chance to watch the very last episode, but I did see The Many Saints of Newark.
Yeah, me and
Rowan.
I
was like,
yeah.
it kind of worked. But do you think that because truly what happened with the creators, that they finally did tell you what Tony,
Yeah.
how it ended.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got whacked.
Yeah.
He got whacked.
Yeah. I mean, it's a mixed thing, because I think like one of the problems that I have with actors and writers and all of them like getting canceled, I think it's the problem with a lot of them. It's like, well, why are we even talking to them anyway? Like, why are we hearing what they think anyway? I mean, in the past, there just weren't as many opportunities to find out about actors and all of that, to find out their opinions and their politics and all of that. So now there's this idea that you need to not watch something or not read something because of what the person that did it is like. So we know too much about people now. And, I don't care what some celebrities' politics are, but,
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, I really don't get involved with celebrity, in politics. I mean, I know that they have to be involved because, I mean, at the end of the day, when you turn that actor suit off, and that was one of the biggest things about getting the chance and the opportunity to talk to other entertainers, because at the end of the day, they're just they're actors and everything, but you still have to go home and pay your bills, or you sometimes can just be regular people.
Yeah.
But you have to think about regular things too.
Yeah.
And you have to think about the things that and the world that's around you. So I think that is also important.
Yeah.
And when I've talked to entertainers before, like, yeah, I'll ask them about their questions, like, what movie is this, blah blah blah. But I like to talk about how they feel about certain, aspects of life, and what their political stance may be. And and some have been openly and open and with content and so forth. But I mean, it really doesn't change anything.
Yeah.
They have this, celebrities have the same hopes and fears that everybody else does. Is just they make more money.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've had the opportunity to, like I said, talk to some of the people, and then it's like a lot of folks out there are completely off, but there are some people that just say, hey, I want to talk to somebody that's outside of the Hollywood system, outside of what's going on, and sometimes just want to have a normal human conversation.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah, it would be a rough call. Yeah, I mean, it would be a rough call. But I'm like, I think like with interviews, I think what the theory is that, I mean, people just kept asking David Chase about Tony for what happened to Tony for so many years that he finally like slipped up and answered the question, because he really tried not to. Because I mean, in a way, I mean, your work, when you put your work out there, in a way you there's this idea also that you shouldn't really be allowed to say anything. Or I mean, I studied writing, and so you try and learn to write really well, because once you put something out there, you don't have a chance to correct it. So like with authors, I mean, when you get to ask them when they need to like give stuff away, or I don't know, like, okay, you had your chance, you put your story out there, so you can't go back and correct it. We can write more. So Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of anticipate, I might do that with the comic book I have now, I'm writing now, because I'm pretty happy with it, but I feel like it really shows that I didn't really know anything about comics, and that I just really did it in isolation. So, I mean, I think it could be better reissued at some point, but yeah, I'm happy with it.
Yeah.
See,
See, that's the other thing too. Like I've been writing for a very long time. And, when I created my universe, and like I said, it started in 1998, and it just kept building. It just, building up backstories of history and what was going on at the time. And, even things that affected people, in World War II. Yeah, it's it's great. It's really, really great. And like I said, I just want to go ahead and finish the main story, but when we do the backstories, it'll be good. It'll be something exciting to see.
well, I'd love to read it. I'd love to see it.
I'm still work. It's still a work in progress, because the particular person that I want for this project, and I know that she would be good. I want to make sure that we get all the ducks in a row for this project, because I mean, it's pretty much going to be my my life's work. I just want to be able to do one good graphic novel.
Oh yeah.
One good one. And I'm going to try to really enjoy that as much as I can.
Wow. Okay, so let me pop in some history stuff that I found out the past couple of weeks that I thought was pretty fascinating. So one thing we talk about a lot here, and again, it has to do with archiving, is we talked a lot about abuse in residential schools in Canada and in the United States, and that's an issue where archives are really important, because there's information the church can hang on to information, and so there's attempts to try, you need to try and get archives and all these things to hold people accountable. And so I'm listening to a podcast about residential schools where a young woman is going, whose family, she's an Indigenous Canadian family, and so her father and children and aunts and uncles were all in residential schools, and like her father would have been, the residential schools were in existence until 1996, and so her father, who's now dead, was in the schools like in the 70s and 80s, and then he became a highway patrolman in Canada. And so the story begins with something he said about, he was out patrolling one night and saw a car driving unsteadily and pulled him over, and realized that it was the priest from the residential school, and beat the shit out of him. And so it starts with that story, and she's going back to research to try and find out, because their dad told the story, but he didn't give the guy's name. So they're going back and trying to find the priest, trying to find out who it was, and he might even still be alive. So the history is that recent. But yeah.
So wait a minute. He beat the priest up?
Yeah. The priest had abused him when he was a child.
Oh,
yeah, sorry, I missed that part.
kind of like that movie Sleepers.
Well, yeah, or just this real classic revenge thing. But
Yeah, well, I mean, you know about the movie Sleepers, right?
I don't think so.
It was with Kevin Bacon, and he was a prison guard. And I know Robert De Niro was the priest, and I mean, he abused these boys, and I think that they killed them. The guard was played by Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not quite sure if it was necessarily just sexual abuse, but I mean, they were in like a juvenile detention and they killed the guard, and it was all on trial. I mean, it was a deep movie.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, revenge is one of those things that, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's an eternal theme and story. And when you're, and like with the with the residential schools, I mean, it was cultural genocide. They were taking young children away from their families to destroy their culture. So even if, I mean, it was inherently abusive, even if nothing were to happen to the child, even if they weren't beaten or sexually abused, they were abused by nature of what happened. So, but that's another thing that people are trying to find the records of who died. There's unmarked graves at the schools, and if they could, I mean, they don't deserve to be called schools. They were more like internment camps. So if you go back and get those records, you can try and name who was there, who those people were. I mean, there's people that don't know what happened to their families, and want to bring them home and bury them.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, man. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and then adoptee politics, which is something I became more aware of recently.
Adoptee politics?
Yeah, because the politics of adoption, of people that were adopted and want their records, want their original birth certificates. That's sealed. When they're adopted, they're given a new birth certificate, and in most states, the information is sealed. And this is global. And you're looking at, I became interested in this, and I'm always like purposefully vague, through some relatives, through some people I knew who adopted through just complete narcissism. And that was how I became aware of the issue. And so, I mean, there's cases, people want to go back and find out why they were taken away from their biological relatives. And there's people that consider adoption trafficking, and that the reasons people, I mean, you have like you do have like pretty much flat out kidnappings because it's a business, and you have you have children removed from families because of poverty and because of addiction and societal illnesses and economics, and you have a lack of support for kinship care for
True.
When there can be relatives that want to take a child that will take care of a child, and sometimes that's not allowed. And then also relatives in some case don't necessarily get financial support. So sometimes they want to take in children and can't. So I never realized until recently that having a birth certificate is really important to a lot of people. I just hadn't thought about it because there's people that like, but yes, it's very important to people. And so people feel that, and I think that I've always thought, that there's situations where a mother doesn't want their identity to be known. And I kind of think in a way they have that right, but there's so many cases of abuse, of coercion, where of that just being the laws of people with vulnerabilities, not knowing what their rights are. So there's that problem. And there's also this idea that this contract of secrecy was made by others. The adoptive kid never got to agree to it. So this is a contract about them. So in a respect, even if the parents don't want to be known, and there's many cases where the parents don't feel that way, they just didn't have other choices, people have a right to information about themselves.
That's a definite fact. That's a definite fact. Understood.
Yeah. And so so there's a worldwide movement of Korean adoptees, that, because there's been 200,000 children adopted from South Korea, and there's just a real lack of ethics. There were cases, there's cases of people, there were just a lot of cases where, because of poverty, people would take children to an orphanage, but they didn't want them given away. So yeah. And just people not being told their rights, and a lot of money is made off of adoption. So
it sounds like adoption is traffic, is traffic light.
Well, yeah. And there's people that very much say that adoption is trafficking. And so it's just, and one of the points that I heard on podcast that made a lot of sense, that okay, even, there's all this sappiness of adoption's so beautiful, it's so wonderful. Even if it is a good situation, there is still a tragedy that happened somewhere along the lines for this child to be separated. And then you have the huge issue of transracial adoption, of white people adopting kids of different races and just being raging from oblivious to, it's just deep of where kids not knowing their culture, or being, just there's a lot of issues with that, and so, so there's but then just the fact that okay, well, maybe it's a celebration for these parents, but along the way, something really sad happened most of the time. So, yeah.
Okay. I can definitely understand that. And wow, I wasn't aware of those kind of say, this is actually the first time I've heard about that. Wow, that's interesting. Definitely going to be looking a little bit into that. I might be able to incorporate some stories or write something about that.
There's some intense material out there, so definitely just message me if you want me to send anything about it, because
absolutely,
there's always this factor of, okay, people that are dissatisfied with something are the ones that are going to be verbal about it. So there's most likely going to be, there's plenty of adoptees, I'm sure, that are fine and don't want that information, because that aren't really out. But the fact that, it can be sort of like, okay, yeah, you don't hear from people that are okay with something, you hear from people that are not okay with it. But that the fact remains that there are people that are very, very not okay. It doesn't matter the number or whatever. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Absolutely.
But that's just another big issue where it is just the records and information is just very politicized. Who holds the records really has a lot of control, and whose life gets documented and recorded has a very political.
Right. Understood. Well, thank you. I think I guess I'm gonna have to start coming back by here more often. Goodness, man. See that, you know what, when Shantae, she pretty much holds me hostage when I get her for the happy hour, but definitely that. And she throws a lot of support for my show as well. So, I give her that much. And I've been pretty much like on and off with the soup, because I mean, age is a part of my crew, so it's like, that works hand in hand. But I'm definitely up for come through for some more for a few more podcasts and so forth.
Lovely. That would be great. Well, why don't you tell people where they can find you?
Okay. Most people, well, first of all, I could be found on Instagram is Saint for Aces. That's on Instagram, and that's pretty much my dealings with that. Everything else is First Gen Xers, and that's on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, and Spreaker.com and Live 365.
Okay. Well, cool. Well, thanks for sending me that link the other night. I wasn't able to catch it, but I will definitely,
Yeah, and shout out to Roe, man. That's like, man, you just kind of, you just keep on going, bro. Like,
right on, man. Thank you, Saint.
Yeah,
right
absolutely, man. I definitely appreciate it, but I'll start coming through a little more.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I definitely appreciated you guys tonight, and man, I had a ball.
Good. I'm so glad. Me too, Saint. So yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you so much, though.
Okay.
Right on now, Saint.
All right. Have a good night, y'all.
Night.
All right. You too, my man.
Later.
So you know how we were talking about the whole social media thing 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what I was leading up to is my brother is part of he is part of a group of it's part of a lawsuit that was filed in Buffalo. A year ago, there was a mass shooting at a supermarket in Buffalo. 10 Black people were killed and more people were injured, and an 18-year-old by an 18-year-old white supremacist. And so there is a lawsuit going on against social media companies that radicalized him, basically. So and the lawsuit is also against gun manufacturers, the body armor people, and all of that. But I just happened, the social media aspect is I sent you that segment about it. So I love my brother and a lot. So I read the whole legal brief. Yeah, he's like, oh, okay, now 3 people have read it instead of 2. But I mean, it's a real thing. I mean, it might not, it might it might not rise to the level of a jury ruling against the social media companies, but how they have like keywords, so there's certain words that will get the algorithm to send young people racist propaganda and to keep sending it. And that the way that social media was designed is to hook people, to get you this dopamine link, where like with likes and acknowledgement, the more people get, the longer they stay online. I mean, basically, this young person was just he was not raised in a racist family. I mean, he was radicalized over like about a year or 2. And see, they also there was a massacre in New Zealand of a mosque, and that guy live streamed it, and that hasn't since then that encouraged other mass killers to live stream. So there's functional ways that and so that like the Tops massacre was being streamed for like 24 minutes before they could stop it. Like they could use AI mechanisms to stop things like that. But anyway, it was pretty pretty emotional. But so I'm reading it over again because I mean it's like legal, but so the one of the phrases that's used is the neurological satiation process occurring in Gendron's brain paralleled the growing depravity of his soul. So yeah. So they kind of they have I think 3 families are part of this lawsuit, and Gendron pled guilty, and he's gonna spend the rest of his life in prison with no possibility of parole. However, that was a criminal case in I guess state or whatever, but a federal case is going to be filed because it's a hate crime. So that's going to be a trial that could result in him being executed, because that's the only way that you can execute somebody for the most part under the federal government. So I guess that's happening simultaneously with the lawsuits against the social media companies. And basically the defense and all sides are using our social media, but in different ways. So yeah, I'm pretty proud of my brother. So, but yeah, I got really sad reading about it, because of course they, describe the families. And so, but I mean, there's ways that they're not saying it's sort of like having, if you look at like cars are supposed to have seat belts. So if somebody is drag racing and crashes their car, they shouldn't be doing that. But if their car doesn't have the car is also supposed to have a seatbelt. So it's not an either or so far as supervision. I mean, they're saying that this is an aspect of this product that is unsafe and can be changed. But what was cool was because me and my brother are really close, so I hear all about what he's doing, and I have been. But this was the first time that I'd ever heard a talking head that it's being reported on. And so they're having lawyers come on, of course, and explain it to the public. And so that was pretty exciting because I was like, wow, because like I knew about, because it's something I've known about for quite a while. It's always really cool to listen because you really have to understand something really well in order to explain it, and in order to explain it in 2 minutes or something. So that was pretty cool. I thought the talking head did a really great job, and I'm just proud of my brother and my niece because he kept saying that it was very creative. Nobody's approached it as product liability any before. So, I mean, it's going to be a long thing, right? But I mean, I think this was the first case that was actually filed. And then if you're looking at big companies with a lot of money, I mean, they can prolong something forever. So, I mean, it's going to be years. But yeah, I mean, it just escalates. There's just these mechanisms that evil people can use this method, can use this product, and social media as a product to recruit people.
Very true.
Yeah. Yeah, really sad. The governor of Montana has signed a ban of TikTok in his state. I don't see how you can do that, actually. How can you ban TikTok? I don't see how you can ban an app in a state. Like, what happens? Does that mean it's for your, it just doesn't seem like it should work that way.
Yeah, I don't see it possible.
Yeah. So what does that mean if you're not, so like if you're a resident of Montana, does that, like, what if you don't live in Montana and you go there and you have TikTok on your phone? So, I mean, I just don't think that's the way to go about it. And my brother's firm is also they're doing the same thing. I mean, the damage of TikTok does this, they are suing them for promoting eating disorders. If a kid goes on there and looks for exercise tips, the algorithm will send them videos that promote anorexia. So that's the idea, that people are being Peyton Gendron, that they aren't looking for racist content, that it's sent to them and sent repeatedly and just hooks them in. And like, of course, nobody is saying that this person is not responsible for his actions, but it is something to try and prevent more things like this happening. I mean, not that it's the Texas legislature bans transgender medical care for children. And that's just horrible. I mean, what drives me crazy about that logic is that supposedly conservatives talk about how they don't want government interference. But again, I mean, that's like the huge hypocrisy as far as I'm concerned of being anti-choice. I mean, abortion is a medical procedure, and people should have privacy to make that decision for themselves. And so they are trying to legislate medical care. So it's just really fucked up, and that it is just not the way to go about it. And they are putting in some clauses or something, because I mean, they're saying like, okay, because there's people that are having that treatment now, and so they're not going to have to just curtail it. I mean, because I mean, that could just be really fucked up. I mean, but it's just fucked up that people cannot have the right to make those decisions with their doctors, and the government shouldn't have anything to do with it. And I mean, again, and I would get slammed for saying this in a lot of situations. I do think I think the government does have the right to make laws about things like the sports and stuff like that. I think they do. But not medical care. In Florida, I was reading a article about, and we're about ready to go and talk about more next time, about interviews with teachers in Florida. Because sometimes, I mean, there's all the bannings and stuff like that, and there can be a lot of hysteria about it. But I was reading interviews with teachers, and it is real. There are teachers that are scared of being fired if they don't, that feel that if a student comes to them for support, that they can't offer that support, and that they can't select books that they think their student are beneficial to their students. So they're really, it's just really scary. They feel like they can't teach. Yeah. So, okay. So big thanks to our guest, Saint. And thank you to everybody that listened. Sean,
Yeah, right on, Saint. Thank you for coming on, my man.
And okay. Friday night at Integrity.
Yes, it's going down.
It is going down. Cleopatra Jones and music. Be very cool.
Yes, it is.
So I'll get there at 6.
All right.
Okay.
See you then.
All right, cool. You have a good night.
All right, you too.